Welcome back to Wild, Wise and Curious, Embracing Our Journey, where we're excited to continue the conversation around all things peri and beyond. We'll continue to explore all our stories, challenges and importantly the wisdom we learn along the way. As usual, we'd love to chat with women just like you who might like to share your own perimeno or post-menopause stories with us. We can't wait to chat with you.
Hello and welcome to Wild, Wise and Curious. As usual, we're going to be talking in this episode about all things perimenopause, postmenopause and that glorious one-day menopause. And today we've got our first guest in with us. So both Lou and I are here and I'd like to really put a warm welcome out to Lisa, who is actually our very, very, very first podcast guest. Welcome to Wild, Wise and Curious, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming to join us today.
Okay, so Lisa, thanks for taking the time to come and chat with us. So just going back to when you kind of first started having perimenopausal symptoms, what would you say, what made you think that it could be perimenopause?
Well, we've spoken about this earlier, haven't we? I was just really saying that it's so nuanced and complicated. And I think that is for all of us at that time. When you get to your 40s, and there's so much going on in life, like you can be grieving, there can be death, there can be work stuff. So with me in particular, I had loads of health stuff going on. And then we had the pandemic.
Yes.
You had the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I had 2 young kids at the time. When was the pandemic?
God, 5 years ago now, yeah.
They were 2 and 5.
Yeah.
So I had 2 young children. I had the pandemic going on. And then I had become ill, unknowingly I'd become ill with a toxicity that I didn't know, problem with my house. So I had mold toxicity, young kids, pandemic. So how will I ever know? And that's what we were saying, isn't it? It's such a grey area.
Yes,
it's so nuanced and complicated and mixed in with daily life. And it must be for so many women that it's so subtle, it comes on so subtly, it's mixed in with all of your daily life and all of the things that we go through. And in your 40s, when you were younger, you thought your 40s, I can't wait till I'm in my 40s and everything's sorted out. And that it couldn't be
from the truth.
It could not be. I feel like I have more responsibility, more thinking about like finances, jobs, kids. Then you go to more funerals, like I said before. You start going to, it's usually your parents or your uncles and your aunties, but you experience death a lot more, don't you? You experience troubles. So how the hell would you ever know? Oh, I'm definitely experiencing perimenopause, because we've had a lifetime of having our period and not knowing. One day you wake up and you think, something feels so off. I'm so sad. I'm having an existential crisis. Then you come on your period and you're like, it was that.
That explains it. Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had years from like 10 or 11 or 12 years old or whatever till you in your 40s of having a period every single month and not remembering it's coming.
Yes.
And being tricked and thinking, just no, none of it's right. I just feel awful. I hate my job. And then the next day you come on your period and you're like, it's just my period. So how are we supposed to ever know that it's perimenopause? How are we supposed to know that? And it's all nuanced. It's mixed in with daily life. It's subtle. And then with me in particular, I had mold toxicity. I had kids. I had a pandemic. So how was I supposed to know? So I think it's been going on for years. Funnily enough, the symptoms of mold toxicity are exactly the same, like I said.
Just to complicate things, right?
But I knew that. So I had rage, anxiety, brain fog, heart palpitations, and pins and needles in my arms and legs. Really, really extreme. And I know that was mold toxicity because when I left the environment 5 weeks later, after 2 years of having the symptoms, it all cleared up. So I can 100% say that
I can pinpoint it.
So I can pinpoint it, and then I had the tests and everything. But if that could easily have been confused with perimenopause or vice versa. So then when I now get anxiety and rage and brain fog, I'm like second guessing myself. Have we bought something that's got mold in, or am I? But now, so I'm 45 now, and now you say when? How did I notice, or when did the first symptoms? So I guess the answer is, when did the first symptoms happen? Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
How did I notice? And I think how I've definitely noticed now in the last like 7 or 8 months is because of the timing. Literally with my cycle, I have a good 2 weeks where I feel like I'm trusting, I'm calm, things can happen and I don't get too stressed, I don't fly off the handle. And then I have another 2.5 weeks right in the middle. I don't know my the names of the
all the cycles,
yeah.
like luteal and all that kind of stuff, isn't it?
So
I don't know which ones they are.
Yeah, so it's about 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks after my period. So 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks before my next period. And it's like clockwork, and it starts with really distinctive symptoms every single month. So the only way I can say that I know it is perimenopause, as opposed to normal women and mums in their 40s stress, normal daily life stress, or anything else you've got going on. The only reason I can pinpoint it is because of the timing, and it's like clockwork now. It's absolutely like clockwork.
What sort of symptoms do you experience now then at that time in the month?
So it starts with a day, but like I have been all my life with my period, I'm still tricked by it I have it, and then I'm like, I just had the worst thing happen. Then I look at my app, and I'm like, oh, bang in the middle.
Why do you think? I mean, I remember you, Lou, talking about working more in line with your cycle.
Yes.
And actually, wouldn't it be interesting if, as young women, even young teenagers, even as 10, 11-year-olds, we're kind of taught a little bit more about our cycles and how we might feel, so that instead of being tricked, because when you just said that, it just went, oh my God, yeah, we've been tricked. I know I've been tricked, because when I've had those dip days as a 20, 30, 40-year-old prior to perimenopause, and I've felt a bit like low and fed up, and I'm not worthy of all these people, or they probably don't really like me or whatever. And then to have come on my period the next day and gone, oh, thank God for that. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Why, when I'm having a dip day, was I not aware to just go, oh, I know why I feel crap today. It's because I'm going to have my period tomorrow.
Because we don't live in that kind of culture.
And isn't it bizarre? Because wouldn't it be nice if we did?
Well, I feel like, if we lived in the ideal world where all of these things were celebrated and awareness was, we're getting there. We are embracing it now, but we still forget. Yeah. But what about when I was a kid? I know it was totally hidden. The period was hidden.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it was something to be embarrassed about
as
well. And it's a conversation that we've had, isn't it? Because, talking about periods and menopause and all that kind of stuff in a very open forum, it's like, oh God, should we be talking about this? I'm like, oh yes, because it happens to, half the population.
No, I remember being in, when I was a kid, if a period advert came on, a period product advert came on, like we'd all snigger at it.
Yeah.
And my stepbrother would laugh and talk about periods. And when you came on your period and you'd ask to borrow a tampon or a pad, you'd have to whisper it and give it to.
I remember slide it up your sleeve to disappear to the toilet at school.
What should be happening now is girls should be saying, "Excuse me, miss," in front of the whole class. I've come on my period and I haven't got anything, in front of the boys and the girls, so that nobody, not to enforce some kind of thing on people or make people embarrassed. To make it that no one's embarrassed, to normalise
make it not a thing.
That it's like, excuse me, miss, I forgot my water bottle, I need a drink. It should be so normal, and I can't tell you how much I've achieved normalisation of periods in front of my 2 kids.
Good.
That they literally come in the most inappropriate times, and they'll say, I mean, can I even say this?
Yeah, of course you can.
They'll be like, oh, Mum, look, there's blood there. There's all. And I'll be like, yes, it's my period. And we'll all talk about it and say, we talk about the moods now a lot. Yeah. Because Cass is like, red alert, red 2.5 weeks, 2.5 weeks. and then we all get kind of celebratory the day after my period because that's when it will. Is that the same for you? Do you have?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've started having conversations at home. So my older two are a lot older, and then my youngest is 12. And he's very much aware of what's going on. And we're having the conversations because obviously he's going into puberty. And so we have a bit of a laugh about it. He'll go, "Oh, Mum, you've forgotten that again. That's because you're coming out of puberty." And it's that whole thing. It's those hormones.
But it's awareness, isn't it? Even at 12.
Yeah. I know. Do you know what? It's so weird how people in the past, or even now, think that we need to protect kids from factual things.
Yeah.
Because when kids have the facts, they just don't care
They accept
as
it.
much as what we think.
Yeah.
Like, for example, did you ever hear that thing where someone was like, "Oh, my uncle's gay and he's getting married. I didn't know how to tell my 6-year-old. So I told my 6-year-old, my uncle's, your great uncle is getting married to a man. Oh, why is he getting married to a man, Mummy? Because he loves men and he's attracted to men instead of women. Oh, okay. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. And then it's like, that's how my kids are like, oh, yeah, you have a period every month, blood comes out there. And they literally could not care less.
No,
That's how it should be.
It is how it should be. I mean, I've got 3 boys who are 21, 19 and 14. And they know now one of our toilets isn't amazing at flushing. And so if it's the time of the month and I've gone to the loo, I will just sort of shout up the stairs, "Oh, don't worry if anyone goes to the toilet, it's just me, I'm on my period, just flush it before you go to the loo." And
how good is that?
And they're like, yeah, no worries.
Yeah, because once you normalise it, then the stigma.
It's not a thing.
And there's our culture, literally what we're living in now here, where perimenopausal women and menopausal women are just not seen as white, like they're just looked over.
Yes.
Like what you were talking about.
Yeah, it's not seen as valuable members of society.
Yeah.
And actually what you spoke about when you left me that message was really, really valid on that subject.
It's because we're sexualized in this culture.
Yeah.
And because we're so sexualized, women are so sexualized, then when you sexualize something so much and objectify something, then that becomes their literal worth.
Yeah.
Because we're sexualized so much, then we can't get our boobs out to breastfeed our children.
Yeah.
We can't put your boobs away. That's not for feeding babies. That is literally
What they're for.
They're not sexual. They're literally to feed. If they're in any way, if men are in any way attracted by boobs, it's because they feed babies and your own hormones are playing a part.
Yeah. Because
you're biologically made to make children. We all are. And well, not all of us are, but if you want to.
Yeah.
That's just, if men are attracted to boobs, that I feel like if men are attracted to boobs in the first place, that is literally because they feed babies and it's some kind of primal instinct. And then I think when women get to, since I've experienced those perimenopausal symptoms, I've noticed my face is changing and my skin is changing. And so you have to start thinking about growing old and what you're going to do. Are you going to grow old gracefully, or are you going to start adhering to society's what's the word? What society says you should. The reason why everybody's getting Botox in their 40s is because society tells us that we cannot age.
Yeah.
I had a whole thing with letting my hair go grey.
Oh,
so I was.
It looks really, really good.
Thank
it's
you.
gorgeous.
That's really kind of you. But there were times where I should just dye it. Because then I'm looking older. I honestly, it took me a real long time to kind of make it normal in my own head, and for me to be okay with it. Because I over lockdown I shaved all my hair off.
Did you?
Yeah, so I was completely I didn't like it.
Did you do it because you wanted to?
I had dreadlocks prior to that, and then I started to untangle the dreadlocks, and it was taking too long, so I shaved them off instead. So I literally started with a new head of hair, and I did expect that it would all come out grey completely, but it hasn't. I've got salt and pepper kind of hair. But I did think about dyeing it, and I did start to dye it, and then I started to have like low lights put in to try and hide the grey, and I just had lots of conversations with myself. So why am I actually doing this? Because there was a point at which I was going to have to dye it like every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I am not like
high maintenance.
Yeah, I am not.
No.
You know, I'm easy life as much as possible. So then I got to that stage and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I just want to let it grow and just and get on with it. And there'd be the odd comments like, so why don't you dye your hair?
Yeah.
And
that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd have the conversation. So why do you dye your hair?
I like it.
But it was that whole, you know, it's not the norm. It's not the norm now. Most people do dye their hair, and that's absolutely fine if that's what you want to do. I'm all for it. But for me, I just couldn't do with the hassle.
Yeah, no.
And yes, I am aware it makes me look older.
It doesn't though, because
We're the same age.
Yeah, and I feel you said she was nearly 50.
Yeah.
And are you allowed to say?
Yeah. We've already said that we're going to be celebrating our 50th.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're allowed to, but you definitely don't. You neither of you look that age.
But then, what does look that age?
That's what I'm thinking, because when we were younger, it looked very different, didn't it?
Yes. Well, we don't wear twin sets.
Twin sets.
Twin set and pearls and a perm.
No, but my mum didn't wear a twin set. No, my mum looks. I think she looks quite good for her age. And, but you know, this is what, because I've stopped dyeing my hair as well, and I've just got a weird. Yours is really lovely, like it's all the same colour, whereas my grey only goes there, but here it comes out my normal natural colour. So I've got kind of like a side bit, and I've been going to the hairdressers, and she says that she's had so many women that are letting themselves go grey, and they come in and I'm cutting out my dye, so my hair's quite short at the minute, and I'm just can see the little bit of dye, so I've still got to keep cutting out the dye. And I said, so she said, when we've cut out the dye, then you can really see what it looks like, your natural colour. So we've been cutting it. And I said, so what do all these women, she says, yes, loads. So what do they all do then after are they all happy because they've spent a long time growing it out and growing the dye out? And she says, like 99% of them, they get it all grey and then they just dye it again. Because it's so hard to accept it. And if I'm honest, I've thought about this a lot. And Olive, my 9-year-old, she tells me, why don't you dye your hair, Mum? And so I do know that it looks better dyed. It 100% looks better dyed. I'm making this decision because I'm also very lazy and low maintenance, but also I don't want the toxins.
Yes, that was a consideration.
Yeah. And then kind of like the third, so it's low maintenance, no toxins. And then the third thing is, why am I shaving my legs? Why am I dyeing my hair?
That is so bizarre that you've said that, because this morning in the shower, I was like, oh, my armpit hair's getting a bit stubbly. Oh, I'll shave it. And then while I'm shaving it, I literally had the thought, why am I shaving my armpits?
Why am I doing this?
Surely my armpits grew hair as life moved on, because for some reason my armpits needed to be hairy.
Yeah.
And I had that exact same that thought today.
Well, the armpits is one of the biggest places where you detox.
Yes.
And they say, like, what I've learned about detoxing is if you're sweat, you have to sweat. You have to sweat. Botox stops sweat, by the way.
Yes.
It's really a bad thing to do for your detox pathways. But anyway, you've got to sweat from your armpits. Is one of the biggest detoxes, which is why it's important to wear natural deodorant.
Yes.
And then the hairs are in place. They're in there for a reason. And it is weird, and I think, well, I'm not dyeing my hair, and I know for a fact that it doesn't look as good. So now I have to think about it, because why doesn't it look as good? Is it a fundamental fact? So if we just put some like beings from outer space on the earth and showed them me with my hair dyed and me without my hair dyed, when they've not been exposed to any of the marketing or any of society, so they've not had any exposure, would they, you know, as an objective kind of thing, would they look and say, that looks better?
Yeah.
Or do you have to be exposed to all the magazines and the TV? And is it true? Does it really look worse? Or is it because we're conditioned?
Conditioned.
But also, it's really, I I've started to look at myself in the mirror and I see the changes now. And whereas when you're younger, when I was younger, you just kind of accept that you're getting older and you're maturing and whatever. But now I look different.
Yes.
And I look older. I don't feel older.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think there's a disparity there
Yes.
that my eyes and my brain cannot get around.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what a lot of it is.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it's happened quite quickly, even though I know it hasn't. But I would say the difference between me beginning at my 40s and me beginning in my 50s, I have changed dramatically, emotionally, physically, and mentally.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can see that in my face. But also, so now, yeah, I've stopped wearing makeup so much. I only wear a little bit now and again. And literally, this is all I do. I don't really do anything else. And so, but what I have noticed is I've started wearing clothes I really like.
Yeah.
And, you know, something that speaks to me that I would have gone, oh no, I can't wear that. I'm like, stuff it. I can wear what I like.
Yes.
And it's almost like, you know, that whole thing of becoming a little bit invisible, which I feel like as older women, we do become a little bit more invisible.
Yes.
I wonder if that is almost like I'm going to be invisible so I can wear what the hell I want because you're not going to see me anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't care about your opinion.
Yeah. Just not caring is a really, really good thing.
It's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
To not worry.
But that thing about like becoming the wise woman.
Yeah.
So in like, what did you say in that? The first podcast was like the second spring.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, it really is a transformational period, but one of the strongest, I think, because everything before has kind of been an upward, like you go on to the next level, whereas I feel like this is like a rest, kind of a, like almost like contemplate what's happened in your life, have some rest, and then do what? You like swim.
You can
do what the fuck you want. It's like you've got a whole life to like. Well, actually, not a whole life, whole half a life. Because if you think, imagine like now, I'm 45, you're 50. Imagine if you're going to live to 100. You've now got a whole nother life to live.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I view it.
Yes.
So you've lived that life, and now you get a whole new life to lead.
You're nearly mid-age. Yeah. I always say to live to 100 because I know
Me too.
Yeah, and
me too.
You've got a whole nother life, but this time you've learned a lot already, and you don't have to have anybody telling you what to do.
And we can do it consciously. Now we've got so much wisdom that we're bringing along with us along the way, and this is what I love about this kind of community that we're creating as well. We're all similar kind of like-minded people, and it just brings us up that little bit more as well, and it feels like this is a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a quote the other day, and it said something along the lines of why does society let women in midlife sort of feel like they're letting themselves go, or devalue women, see them as invisible, see them as invisible, not see them because they're invisible. But it's all to do with that, I think, this whole transformational time where actually it's during this time that we develop our superpowers and we develop...
Yeah, because of that book. Do you remember the book?
Remind me which one?
The Change.
Oh God! Oh my God! Absolutely. Kirsten Miller. I'm sure that's her name.
But that's
fantastic fictional book. That's the one I got you for Christmas. Yes.
Really good,
not ready yet.
Yes, it's
it
really
made me feel empowered.
It made me feel empowered as a fictional novel
in their late 40s, 50s,
yeah,
40s, early 50s, that were transforming and finding their superpower, but literally finding a literal superpower.
Okay.
So it's really
I think one of them, like, she ran a gym, didn't she? And I think her superpower literally was that she felt the heat in her hands.
And she was so pouch.
And she was really strong, yeah. So I think if she if she touched you when she had this superpower, this heat, and I'm assuming it's all to do with hot flushes, you know, the energy, and it would burn, or
and one of them became like a witch that could do healing, and I feel like that's kind of my superpower is becoming that, because I'm learning a lot about healing and a lot about all that kind of stuff, and one of them could speak to dead people.
Yeah,
it's really
and then they all come together to solve crime that's going on in the area that they live.
Okay.
It's a really, really, really good book.
And crimes to young girls specifically that have been overlooked for years and years and years. Girls that didn't matter, you know, like maybe like that didn't matter in quotation marks. The society had just not cared about, you know, like runaways, troublemakers, runaways, teenage runaways, maybe sex workers, people that society deems, and they said, we're not going to let you down, and it was like, it's kind of like, obviously the book's amazing and it's a big massive metaphor in itself, but if we actually think about that, it's like perimenopausal and menopausal women are wise women that have a lifetime of knowledge that are here to protect young women and young men and to protect everyone
and to share the knowledge.
And we're so wise, and what a joke that our society, I don't think our society doesn't, because we've got 3 partners that really value that wise.
Yes, they do. Not
the whole of society, but you know, the kind of social media and the kind of, what's the word, popular culture, it's not doesn't listen to wise women, but they really should, because we're probably going to save them all. You know what I mean? But they really should listen, and I think it is getting better. But
so for you then, Lisa, what are you doing to try and help mitigate these symptoms that you're going through at the minute?
Well, so HRT is a big one for me, because I've had so much going on this year with like a health scare and mold toxicity and everything. I've really done a lot of research on health and healing, and then when I knew it was perimenopausal symptoms, I actually thought, I cannot deal with this. I can't take it on. I can't go in and research. And also, I've researched so many into naturopathic medicine, so I've really been anti-pharmaceutical, which isn't, I don't say anti-pharmaceutical, I don't say anti-traditional like conventional medicine totally. If I broke my arm, I'd want to go and get an x-ray and get it plastered up,
which is actually not far off the way you and I feel. If we can avoid pharmaceutical intervention, then we would.
And that's how we both started on our journey, to try and do that, but we got to a stage where actually, no, I need some help now.
Which is where I think I've got to. So I really want to do everything the natural way, and it's really made me think about it. It's really made me think, like, if you get body identical hormones, what does that mean? Is it body identical? Would it have an adverse effect on my body if it's literally body identical? These are the things I've not researched yet, so I don't know. And if there is an adverse effect, do I even care at this point? Because the way I felt on Christmas morning, for example, I just want to not feel like that. And so I messaged my functional doctor, who specialises in, like, weirdly enough, I got connected to her because she's good with mould as well, but that's her sideline.
Mould and hormones.
Yeah, she's all about women's hormones. That's her main job, which is weird, because now I've never spoke to her about that before. But so she does do HRT, but she said, I don't know whether this is appropriate on here, but she said only ever patches, cream, or oral.
Gel. So, I mean, I have Estrogel, and that's my estrogen, and that's a pump gel, and that's the the same estrogen as the body produces, and that's derived from yams. Obviously, it's mixed in a base of alcohol and there's other bits in it to make it work, so that it goes into your system. And the progesterone is something called Utrogestan, the one I use, and I have 1 tablet of that a night. Some people have 2 tablets of that for 2 weeks of the month, and then have 2 weeks where they don't take that tablet. But again, they're both the body identical, and they are supposed to be in line with the same hormones that our body creates. And I think, like when we were talking before about the sort of scare early in the 2000s, about the study, I think a lot of those hormone treatments back then, aside from, I think since then it's come out that a lot of the women who were involved in that study were a lot older, or there were lots of different elements to that study.
Yeah.
But I think they were also on lots of different HRT, and HRT has actually shifted massively in 20 years. I think back then it was even horses' urine, I think, Premarin, that was a HRT treatment. So, I mean, it has shifted on. It has shifted on.
Do you know what? I do need to get stuck into it, because you know what I'm like. I have to
totally research the heck out of it. Oh my God. Yeah. Absolutely right. And to be honest, I think I research the hell out of everything, and I want to make sure things are the natural way. And, crikey, in this wise woman stage of like being at nearly 50, I'm now making all my own washing powders, and I'm really trying to cut out all the processed stuff. I make sure that all the toiletries in the house are either organic or I'll make it. I'm getting rid of any sort of like silver foil and plastic lunch boxes.
You know, I've had that. I've had this crazy, like, got to try and eliminate all the scary toxic things, and it kind of made me ill. And
it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming,
I think that's
isn't
the
it?
problem.
It's absolutely overwhelming.
You can do it in small steps, because I'm nowhere near as good as you. I've still got all sorts of stuff in my house.
Oh yeah, but the kids still will have a McDonald's and stuff. So I am not.
Well, it's picking your small battles.
It is.
Yeah, I would say now, because I plan to write a book, but I'll tell you about that separately. But
awesome.
Like a kind of reference
book. Yeah.
But I would say that my biggest bit of advice is to do it slowly. Because two of them that I saw, functional doctors that I've seen, have said, and also during this forum where I'd asked questions, and they also said it on there, is that you sound really stressed about me, and you sound like your nervous system is shot to smithereens, which it was, and worrying and stressing about these things is going to do you more harm
than using them.
Than using the plastic Tupperware.
Absolutely would. Absolutely would.
And I've really had to tell myself, someone bought. I hope they don't listen to this. Someone bought my kids.
I love you.
Someone bought my kids a makeup set, and for Christmas, and then I'm like, toxic makeup on my kid's face, and then my kids loved it, obviously, and put it all over their face, and I'm like, oh, it looks nice. And then, because this is a separate thing, but like one of my daughters is kind of getting has experienced a bit of OCD and a bit of worrying about things like that, but that's because she witnessed me last year have a total nervous breakdown and worry about don't use that silver foil, don't use that she saw it, so she's developed. It's normal, isn't it? And I can't now say don't use that makeup,
because it's something else that she'll add to her list.
So it is really, first things first is the fear is what more damaging for anything.
It really is.
You said with regard to your hormones, when you give someone a hug and you release oxytocin, and it makes you if I, like you said, what are you doing about your perimenopausal symptoms? If I had to deal with my perimenopausal symptoms completely naturally, and I could do anything I wanted and it wouldn't upset anyone, I would say, well, if I can get a hotel, a little Airbnb where they see for 2 weeks of the month on my own, I wouldn't do this because I'd miss them too much. And no one irritate me. And then every night you come in, but you only come in with none of your issues, and you hug me, and then you go. Then I want to experience
that sounds like a business idea.
It does, doesn't it?
Because you've got to remember, we never work in isolation.
No.
Our hormones are totally triggered by whatever's going on in our lives. So we're having these perimenopausal hormones, but believe you me, we're triggered by idiotic things in this world. Like, perimenopausal women will get irritated because the hormone, like we said, the hormone that helps you to not get irritated and that helps you to be caring, loving, and to help you deal with people's shit all the time for 30 odd years, reduces, or I don't know what's happening, but something's happening.
Yeah.
So you get irritated more, and it's really difficult because it doesn't work in isolation. I really don't think it, like I had this crazy Christmas, and I never felt the hormone shift so much. But the month before, when me and Cass, I was like, it's coming up to that day, my hormones are about to shift, and then we were like, when's it going to happen? Let's relax, let's do less things, let's watch a film, let's have a hug. And then I got to my period, and I hadn't had the awful symptoms, because I don't get any hot flushes or any physical symptoms.
No.
I mean, I get the brain fog massively,
but you didn't experience the perimenopausal slump at that stage that you normally would, because you'd kind of given yourself some self-care and self-love.
And I 100%, if I had this perimenopause circle, it smack bang in my bad 2 weeks, I'd go home and I'd be totally okay from Cass and the kids.
Yeah.
Because, like, have you ever heard of epigenetics?
Yes.
How you can change. You're not destined for anything genetically. You can change. You can change your gene expression. So if you've got like a gene in your family where all the women get breast cancer, you can do things to change that expression. You're not genetically destined. And I think it's the same with hormones. You're not hormonally destined to be a mega bitch if people don't irritate you and if life isn't stressful, and if you don't have to get to work. So, for example, if you could go on holiday 2 weeks a year, you're not going to experience it. 2 weeks
a year or 2 weeks a month?
2 weeks a month. So if every month you went to Greece 2 weeks every single month, and you didn't have to work, your partner didn't have to work,
someone cooked,
everyone was on holiday, would you experience it the same?
No, you wouldn't. It's very circumstantial as well, isn't it?
Well, we've talked about this previously as well, about the fact that even in our generation compared to our parents' generation, we're having to do so much. It's different, but we are doing more, as in we're
exposed to more.
Yeah, we're working more. We are exposed to more toxins. We've got social media. We've got all these things, and our world feels like it's 24 hours a day.
Yes, I was just going to say that. It feels like it doesn't switch off.
Yeah. So for us to be able to have that, you're absolutely right. I think would be incredible. But from what I'm hearing from you and what I've experienced, communication is key.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to communicate what your needs are, but also you need to know what they are.
Of course you do. Yeah.
So it's all like having being able to be reflective and working out what it is you need, and then being able to vocalise that to the ones that are near and dear to you. And then last week I had a terrible week, and I think I said about that. And one particular day I'd had a really bad night's sleep. Went into a meeting with my team. Just literally said, right, I've had an awful night's sleep. My brain's not working properly. And it was like, okay. And it was accepted. Yeah. We moved on, and my day went on okay. Yeah. But it was just that being able to have that conversation and not trying to hide it and not trying to pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, communication is so
key. It really
because when I called Cass in and said, like, I feel like, I said, can I just explain how I feel? And we were not, when I say not good, we're never not good. Me and Cass are always okay. And that's through years of communication. Mm-hmm. It's not the same as when we first had kids, that was rocky, but we're really always okay. But we were a bit like, he must have think, for goodness sake, you're all over the place and it's Christmas. And I said, can I just explain how I'm feeling? And I was like, I just feel like I want to take the thoughts and I want to like literally grab them out of my head. And I was crying and I said, I feel so confused why I'm having these thoughts. I feel like that feeling of impending doom and existential angst.
Yeah.
And we went to a cafe in this Christmas period it was Christmas and my hormone change at the same time. It was just too much. We went to this little cafe and I looked at the cafe and it was really interesting. And I was like, look, she's put all these things on the wall, and I've done nothing with my life. Like that's
yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
and I said to Cass, all of these feelings, I just want to grab them out of my brain. And I feel like I'm in a really busy train station and it's fast forwarding and everyone's running around me and I'm standing still and I'm so confused. And I said, I just do feel like I just need a hug. And he went, oh, come here, and he hugged me. And it changed.
Melted.
It all changed. Yeah. And that's when I thought, obviously practically, I can't say, right, for 2.5 weeks now, you're going to have to bend to my every whim and hook me all the time, and I can't be, none of you can irritate me. Bloody hell, I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old.
It's not going to happen.
Can you imagine? Oh, is it okay if just for 2.5 weeks you can't irritate me? Yeah, but that's our life's work. Anyway, so, but it's impractical, but for that day, and then it just changed it. And I had a few days left of the bad time because I know from looking at my app. And I just was fine. And I was probably relieved that everyone had left for Christmas and everything.
Yeah.
I just, like that hug, I really do feel like epigenetics, your internal and your external environment can change your gene expression. It can literally change gene expression, which is your DNA, which is scientific. And it's science. Epigenetics is a science. Mm-hmm. And I think your hormones can also be changed, and they can be changed by thoughts, they can be changed by meditation, they can be changed by moving meditation, they can be changed by affirmations, and they can be changed by a hug. And
being with other people, because
yes.
we are social animals.
Yeah, we are.
And because we're coming away from that a bit more now, which is why things like this are really important.
Yes.
It's being with other people,
yeah.
where you feel that you've got a shared experience,
yeah.
and you're sharing your stories, and we're being heard, and there's so much value in that.
Yeah, I feel like, when you said it's once a month, I was like, no, I've only just stepped in the door, but I need it to be.
I need to sleep here tonight.
I need it to be more often, because this is the good week.
Yeah.
And I'm here, and I want you to on my bad week, my bad 2 weeks, because I know it can really change.
Yeah.
And
fluctuations.
I know Cass would literally drive you to my house, drive me to your house.
But it's finding all the. We talked about
the tools,
It's finding those tools for your own toolbox, and making sure that you've got them in. And there's those times where you think, oh my gosh, I've not done that. I've not done that. There are all those things that are on my list that I know are really good for me, and that's why I'm feeling like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's referring back to that tools list and going, okay, I need to be doing this. I need to be having a bath. I need to be having a good night's sleep. And it's all
sleep
those
is the hard thing for me.
Yeah.
So I've not had any sleep issues. Well, I have, but not consistent, and nothing that I can put down to hormones or anything. But like just the other day, but not regular. So I can sleeping fine, but I just can't go to bed because I need that time on my own.
Downtime after the kids have gone to sleep.
Yeah,
just peace for you.
Yeah, but I know I need to sleep, but I just can't do it. I can't sacrifice that time on my own. So I can't say, oh, the kids have gone to bed and I could just cozy and get in with them, and I'd have 12 hours and then I'd wake up and I'd feel so good. I cannot bargain with myself for that. The feeling good in the morning doesn't, it's not as good as the time on my own.
Yeah.
No, I understand that.
But also your kids are still quite young, and therefore you've still got a lot of time that you have to dedicate to your kids.
Yeah.
Whereas, okay, your youngest is 12, but at 12, and like certainly my youngest 14, they can sort of fend for themselves. If you want to just go off and read a book, they're not necessarily going to be, Mum, what about this? Mum, what about this? Mum, I need a drink. Mum, I'm hungry. Mum, I need to get to it. You don't get that when they sort of.
I worry about when my kids get older, because what does a utter control freak do when the kids just want to go off on the what
let go?
How am I going to do that?
You will.
It becomes gradual.
It's gradual.
It's a gradual thing.
Yeah.
And I said this to my eldest at one point.
I'm saying let go, but I still don't.
No. Well, I said to my eldest at one point, I said, you don't understand. I still see you as that 5-year-old boy,
Yes.
and you are a man now.
Yeah.
And my brain does not compute because
Yes.
time has moved so slowly, yet it's moved so quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
And I cannot. And he was my firstborn, so it's been more difficult with him. And you know, I said that to him, it was probably about a couple of years ago now. I said that, and I really remember how I felt at that point because it's really difficult.
Yes.
But
Yeah, it is.
it is a gradual thing. You
Yes.
start to do a little bit more, and you would allow that. You know, it is gradual.
Yeah, I hope that I can do that. I really do, because I need to start feeling better about that myself, because of that shocking year, which is everyone experiences it. Everyone, people have. It's life, isn't it? We all have. In our 40s now, we're going to have a life experience that probably shakes us up a bit.
Absolutely.
And I feel like since that shake-up, I'm just so much more controlling, because it's a fear response or a trauma response. And then, I just think, how can I, if she's doing her own thing, how will I know if she's drank enough water? That kind of thing.
Because you've prepared her and you've taught her and all the things, and that's where I take some joy in the fact I have some amazing conversations with my children. I'm so incredibly proud of them, and also all the stuff that I feel like I've imparted to them. There are things where they've taken it on board, and also understanding that they are their own person, and all I can do is show them the way, and whatever they decide to do, it is their choice
journey.
to do so.
It's their journey. That's
But it is a thing of the things that you try, the wisdom that you try to impart on them along the way. There are certain things in my house. For example, I don't have a microwave. And some people are like, why don't you have a microwave? Why don't you have a microwave? Anyway, I just chose never to have a microwave. And
funny enough, Michelle, we don't have a microwave either.
Why am I not surprised? Anyway, but I now know.
I do have a microwave.
Yeah, but it's on its way out.
You're not going to be using that.
But things like that, and the kids have kind of picked up on that, and they're like, oh no, it's not something that we'd use. We've never used it. I mean, the other week I did get rid of I bought a tower, the air fryers. And I was like, why did I buy it? I don't even want an air fryer. I want us to use the cooker. I want us to use the safest way to sort of cook things. And I'm not obsessive about toxic stuff, in as much as, I will still put aluminium foil over certain things. I'm just finding that the older I get, the more I want to really learn about what's the best way to prolong life, to preserve health. I guess it's like the future-proofing that we were talking about the bike that I still haven't got on, that I am going to ride at 95.
That's a good aim.
So it's just for my, and the kids do pick up those things. There's certain things that they're like, oh no, I'm with you on that one, Mum. I agree. I'm not interested in doing things that way. But then they'll go and do something that I'd go, oh my God,
But
that's their learning.
It is, but then remembering also what we were like at that age.
Oh my goodness.
Any
of the three of us.
But I hadn't got any level of understanding that my kids have got.
No,
and I am beaming with pride when I talk to
absolutely
them
that
about anything,
mine.
because the level of awareness of others and self-awareness that they have got, I would never have had at their age. No. So that gives me hope that they will continue that as they move on through life, and I can see what their relationships are like with others, and so I have got hope, and I know that they are going to be okay. I know that in my heart.
That's interesting, because the light and easy thoughts, the inspiring thoughts, they're the ones to go with them.
Yeah, definitely.
And relax, which is, I don't know whether you might have got the vibe that I just find it very difficult. But that's what I really need to do. And maybe the perimenopause symptoms are the final kick up the butt after this hard 18 months. And it's like, and now you've got, like I said to Cass, like, how can this be happening that we've gone through this like difficult year, which, like I say, in your 40s, loads of people must be, there's always something, isn't there? And we've had a little bit of a health scare in your 40s, in your 50s, loads of people have that. And then why now am I having the perimenopause? Why can't I catch a break? But maybe this is the break, is the learning.
Yes.
Like, I'm learning, I'm learning. And like
It's a reset, and we've talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's that it feels like a reset.
Yes.
An emotional, a spiritual, a physical
It really
reset,
does,
where we have now almost like got this chance to make the changes for future proofing. So what does future me want to look like? What will future me really be grateful that I started today?
Yeah.
To help me along the rest of my journey, and that has given me a clarity
Yes.
that I have never had, and a reason and a motivation, not just because I want to be skinny, not just because I want to look nice in those dresses. It's now I feel like I'm on the home straight now. I am making some really good positive decisions because that's going to affect me in my later life.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking about with the gym. I never go for any body image reasons at all. I only want to be stronger and like to get
said that recently.
But you know, with like the things that you can do for the perimenopause, what I'm thinking is because it's just the beginning of me learning, and I haven't done all my research yet, is that like I've made the decision definite to to take HRT because it's such an obvious hormonal. It's obvious, and I need help. So I'm totally fine with that, which is a big leap for me because I don't ever like any artificial pharmaceuticals. And then it started to get me thinking that what about like what we are supposed, like if our bodies are supposed to be going through this, shouldn't we ride the storm?
And I think we've had that conversation as well.
Yeah, we have.
But we're living a lot longer now.
Yeah.
So we've not really ever. This is the first time that we're coming across all this, really.
Yeah.
So I think that. I think we've had exactly the same thoughts.
Yeah, we have. And also the fact that we are, when we said earlier about being exposed to so much out there in the environment, toxins and, different technology and things that's going on. And I think it all plays a part with our hormones and also stress levels. We're probably loads more stressed now than, because there are so many stressors, and like we were saying a minute ago about things being full on 24 hours. So, and I think the age that living longer. And it's a case of what sort of quality of life do you want that second half of life to be?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, if I can feel like this as opposed to how I felt 4 years ago, then I will keep on going with the HRT because it feels like a natural. Okay, so if my hormones are naturally fading, but I can as naturally as possible put them back into my body, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and I often think, who knows, what are my perimenopause symptoms affected by the 20 years I took the contraceptive pill? Like, am I even being affected from that unnatural thing that I did before?
Yeah.
So I'm just making the decision now. I'm definitely going to find some HRT, definitely.
But it's also being aware that you can be flexible with that as well. I started it in the beginning and I didn't get on with it, so I stopped doing it. And then I realised actually I do need to do it. And it was being able to be flexible about how I approached it. And then there's still been times where I thought, shall I just come off it and try again now?
Do you think you'd notice a big difference if you did come off it?
If nothing else, it has given me regular periods where they were all over the place.
Yeah.
So that in itself has given me a sense of peace now.
Yeah.
So I think if nothing else, that has helped, and I think there's been a lot of other things that it's helped. But it hasn't been a magic. It's not a magic pill. So it's all those other things that, and we've talked about it before. It's all the other things that I'm trying to do, to keep myself well, contributing to that as well. Yeah. So it's that whole reset thing.
And does it affect when you have your last period? Like when if you were whenever you were destined to ever have your last period, so fully go through the menopause and have a year with no period, does HRT affect that?
I have read in this, because I read this I had this question from somebody at one point, and I read there's something in Lisa Mosconi's book that's not the case, because we're born with
the amount of
eggs, so that is going to finish when it finishes. So it's just about how we are able to manage our symptoms with the lower estrogen.
Yeah.
So I will find that piece in the book for you and send it to you, because she I'm going to say categorically says now, and then I'm going to, but
So you know, so you're destined to have your last period when you're going to have your last period because of your amount of eggs. And then, so you know, if someone rides the storm and they don't have any HRT, when they have their final period, do all your hormones kind of level out after you? And then when do people stop taking HRT?
Well, I think some people have stopped taking HRT, and certainly I spoke to somebody whose mum had taken HRT and had got to 60, and her doctor had told her to come off of the HRT. And then for 10 years she was off the HRT, and she felt rotten for the 10 years, to the point where she went back to another doctor, and the other doctor put her straight back on HRT.
When she was 70?
At 70, and at 73, 74, she's still on HRT, and she's living a life and loving it.
She felt better, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but it's going back to it's all being really unique.
Absolutely. So it might be totally different for each one of us.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, I just feel that if it can help me in the now, you know, yes, my current mindset is, you try taking it off me, there'll be trouble. But I equally know that I'm evolving and changing all the time. So that doesn't mean that in a few years' time I might not say, oh, I might try this or I might try that.
Yeah.
Because it works for me at the minute.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. I feel happy with it and settled. So yeah, I think it is. I think we're all so different.
Yeah. Cass said to me, imagine if you get HRT and then you realise you were just like hormonally mental from the day we met. And I'm like, that could very well be true, because we met when I was 35. And you know, we're realising now that a lot of women are experiencing
perimenopausal symptoms way back.
They just don't know. Yeah. And then people are having kids, so how do you know? It's all mixed in with all that life. And then I was like, God, imagine if I just turn into like my best self, like the real, what I think is feel like is the real me.
How dynamic you will be.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lisa, for coming and chatting with us. I think it'd be great to have you back, because I know you've got there's so many different things for us to talk about and for us all to learn about. We really hope that you guys got something out of our chat with Lisa. And, you know, as we've mentioned before, if anybody's really interested in coming back and coming onto the podcast, we'd absolutely love to have a chat with you. Have a really great week, and we'll be back with you in another week's time. Thank you ever so much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.